Welcome, listeners, to your award-winning Let's Talk America with host Shana Thornton show. Of course, we're back with Real Talk. It's our exclusive broadcast, televised broadcast, where you get to see us live and up close. And we cover the topics you want to know more about, those trending issues. And tonight is no exception. We have a very relevant and timely conversation. We are in the midst of COVID, but there's so much other things going on as well that may be all related to our health and to overall well-being of our family being empowered. And tonight's topic is one that will resonate with so many of you. It's titled Family Caregiving Challenges and Available Resources. Again, that is Family Caregiving Challenges and Available Resources. Well, I'm no expert, but we have three individuals on with us that have the experience and also the education that will certainly enlighten you. So I would encourage you to get a pencil, a pad, if you want to take notes on your electronic device, because if you're saying in this moment in time, I'm not in a caregiver role, you never know where you may end up in that role, okay? So we want to be empowered with as much education, awareness, and tools as possible. And so excited to introduce you to this three panelists with me, amazing individuals. You know, we have a tradition here on this program where we allow our exclusive guests to introduce themselves. I've read the resumes, I've seen the CVs, the biographical information you can find on Wikipedia and other places, and it's amazing. But you know, here on Let's Talk America Radio, we have an interest in humans and people and their connection to their area of expertise. I have Nora Gibson on with me. I have Eugene Bell, and I have Angela Tate, three advocates in caregiving. Nora, I'm going to give you the honors first. If you would take our tradition and go with it, 2 minutes or less, introduce the world to yourself and what really got you here to be in the role that you're in today.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm Nora Gibson. I'm the Director of Case Management with Piedmont-Macon and Piedmont-Macon North. I'm a nurse by trade. I actually was an educator for my first line of jobs, and I decided that I wanted to extend that into nursing, and so that's when I became a nurse, and I eventually went on to do case management. I've been in case management for 8 years now, the director for 6, and this is really my calling. I love it here.
I love it. I love it. And I thank you for all that you're doing and with that training and nursing. I'm sure that would be a very helpful conversation for us tonight. So thank you. Thank you. Excited to have you on. Next up is Eugene. Mr. Bell, will you introduce our audience to your background and expertise for tonight's episode?
Hey, Shana, thank you so much for having me on today to talk about this important topic. My name is Eugene Bell, and my role with SeniorLink is to connect the caregiving community to resources, particularly the state's Structured Family Caregiving Program, which helps family caregivers who take care of their loved ones at home. I've been working in healthcare solutions in Georgia now for several years, particularly in the area of hospice. So I've seen up close and personal what caregivers go through and how powerful the experience is when people have the right support in place. I'm incredibly proud to be working with a company that makes it its mission to support family caregivers.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the organization you're with and the expertise you will bring tonight, allowing our listeners and viewers to have as much information as possible. Last but certainly not least, Angela, will you introduce us to your expertise and your advocacy?
Hello, everyone out there. I am Angela Amazing Tate, and I am an advocate for caregivers and families, trying to build a bridge together, just one person at a time. I am also by trade a life coach for caregivers. So I came into this business because I have a special needs son, an adult special needs son, and I've been his caregiver, his advocate. I have just been that source for him, that voice for him. On top of, I took care of my mother. She died of 2 types of cancer, as well as my grandmother. And my grandmother was a nurse, and my great-grandmother was a nurse. So when I kind of found that out, I realized that being a caregiver was in my DNA. So I had no clue. And when I look back over my history, I was like, okay, you've been doing this for a while. I was a candy striper. So, you know, fast forward and why I'm here tonight, I wanted to share some knowledge, some education, some of my training, some of my history, and just anything I could bring to make people just breathe or help them breathe being put into this role during the time of COVID and with everything going on. And now we're on a second wave of just the Delta. And I just want to be the link to the chain, just to bring as much as we can. So being on this platform tonight is amazing. So thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. And thank you so much for your advocacy and bringing out the point that so many caregivers are under stress and certainly need to be acknowledged and thanked and appreciated for all that they are doing, because many individuals know it's not always a very easy road, but it's one that is needed in showing love for family members and those they take care of. Angela, I want to start off with you, and I think it's a very important question to kick off this conversation. Featured tonight on Let's Talk America with host Shana Thornton Radio, we're putting the spotlight on caregivers and the resources available for them. Very, very important, timely conversation. Again, we do encourage you to share this episode or tag a friend or family member or colleague as well. Angela, what is the biggest need for caregivers and what resources would be helpful? I think certainly you know firsthand, up close and personal, that spectrum is long and it varies from person to person, perhaps season to season as well. But help us out.
So I'm glad you asked that question. That is the first thing that people come to me with, especially being put in the role of a new caregiver. When COVID came, there were a lot of people that were nurses, doctors, lawyers, just all these different titles, hairstylists. And then they woke up because their parents were either sick or their husbands, wives, or someone in their household was sick or in their family, and they became caregivers. And the frustration that I see the most, I'm going to give you something on both sides. And from the caregivers, they are trying to find the right agencies. Once they get into this space, that wasn't their job by trade. So that wasn't their job when they went to sleep and woke up. And in that case, because it's family caregiving, they don't get paid. So in that time of overwhelming, being panicking, they want to know how do we fix this? Where do we go? What do we do? And that's where the resources come in. But before we get to the resources, we want to say, take a moment to just breathe. We want you to process what's happening, so that's where you start with that. And then once you process, your life has just changed along with the person you're caring for, then that's when you go into, okay, what's the biggest challenge? Well, finding the right help, finding the right agencies, finding your place with someone you can trust that you don't know, bringing to care for your loved one. That is just the biggest challenge. And I'm seeing on the other side, the hours are long. It's a lot for the nurses, the CNAs, the CNNs, the infusion nurses, all these people, the therapists that are coming in the home now. They have to be careful as well. So now you're getting the frustration on both sides. And some of the home health care agencies, they're short-staffed. So I've seen the turnover. I've been in a situation, I've seen firsthand where people, you're waiting on them and they quit. They don't show up. So that's hard when you're looking for someone to show up because you're going to go to work. You have this whole itinerary because now you finally found someone to care for your loved one and they don't show up because they're burnt out. They're overwhelmed. They don't have time with their families. They're just trying to figure it out. And that's where the resources come in. The resources comes in where ask your doctor, ask people at your church, communicate, go on social media. I am a part of 3 different caregiver groups on social media. I have joined my village. And so being in that, even as a caregiver coach, even as a mom who's caring for an adult special needs son, I need somewhere to go that I feel safe. And so that's how I partner with other people who are in the same place. I want to go where I could just vent, drop my comments and, get some advice on where to go to get the new urinals or where to go to, where's the new wheelchairs or what's going on. And there are a lot of agencies that you can go online and that they'll tell you, I have resources on my site. I'm putting together a new resource list and I'm sure the rest of the people behind me are going to come with some things that are going to be just amazing for tonight. So if you're listening out there, I definitely want you to know you're not by yourself. You're not alone. And we're here to do the best we can. We're just connecting you with the dots and even for someone for you to talk to, because this was not your role, but because it's family, now you're in there. Don't feel obligated and overwhelmed that your world has came to an end and this is a sentence. It's not. So we're here to help. I don't want to overextend this um, conversation for me, because there's so many other wonderful things you're going to get. And you can come back and we definitely will give you everything that I have where you can find me. And again, even some groups where you can kind of just jump in for support. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Shonda.
Thank you so much. And thank you for providing your advocacy and passion as well. And we are going to close out soon with you telling us where they can get additional information to connect with you and continue that conversation with you. She talked about being relatable. You know, Eugene, there are so many different issues and concerns out there for caregivers, and situations certainly vary. But can you explain for your group what is a structured family caregiving program and how does it help families?
For those who don't know, Structured Family Caregiving is a program in Georgia that offers coaching and support for family caregivers who care for their family members at home. The person receiving care must be Medicaid eligible and live with their caregiver. For families enrolled in Structured Family Caregiving through SeniorLink, we provide the caregiver with access to a care coach so they never feel alone and their confidence grows. They are connected to the care team via our app, Vela, and they receive a small stipend to help offset costs. But really, caregiver confidence is critical. We have data that shows that the more confident the caregiver is, the better the health outcomes for the person they're caring for. For example, the caregiver, through coaching, learns the early signs of a stroke. They learn how to take and read blood pressure, and they learn how to appropriately help with walking, eating, and other activities of daily living. As we know, it takes experience to get good at anything in life, and caregiving is definitely no exception. Also, I'd like to add that SeniorLink has been doing this for 20 years, and we're the national leader in providing structured family caregiving. Here in Georgia, we have a great program that began in 2019, and we are now serving families all over the state. And staying true to our mantra of we care for the caregiver, we also have so many great resources for family caregivers who are not in our program. I definitely want to take a second to invite all caregivers to our Facebook community, Caregiver Nation. That's a community with thousands of caregivers from everywhere, sharing stories, sharing advice, and sometimes just talking about the day they had. And lastly, I want to say thank you to all the family caregivers out there who may be listening to this. We understand that you perform an incredible service for our healthcare system in helping to keep your loved ones safe and at home.
I love it. I love this conversation. If you're just joining us, you're watching Let's Talk America Radio. I'm Shana, and I have three amazing guests with me tonight. They're talking about caregiving and resources available. We've already spoken with Angela Tate. We just finished speaking exclusively with Eugene Bell, and now we're speaking with Nora Gibson. Nora, you heard what Angela said. You heard what Eugene said. Both talked about health concerns. I want to horn in on that as a case manager over all of that, the operations of it. You've seen so much. Is there a challenge, and if so, why, to really cut down on readmissions of patients in hospitals?
Yes, absolutely. So in the hospital, by the time a patient or a family member gets to us, we're no longer in the proactive phase, we're in the reactive phase. So we have to meet them where they are and figure out how we can help them moving forward. And so, of course, we try to keep readmissions down, and we do as much as we possibly can. We do have one program that we've partnered with AmeriMed. It's called Physician Home Care, and this actually gets a physician or a nurse practitioner that goes out to the home within 7 days of discharge, and they talk with the patients. They are able to make sure that they've made their follow-up appointments with their physicians, go over their meds and make sure that they understand all of that. I actually did find out today they're even giving COVID vaccines, and soon they will be having the antibody infusions. So they're a great partner that we use, and we send a lot of patients home with that service. So that has really cut down on readmissions and just straight education. And like Angela and Eugene both said, caregiver fatigue is real. It is so real. And there are numerous groups, care groups, support groups out there. And I strongly encourage, if you're a caregiver, to seek out those groups, because they're going to be full of people that are doing the same things you are, and they're going to be able to relate, and that's going to be very helpful for the caregiver.
Great information, great tips. Your background is in nursing. You mentioned that earlier at the top of the segment. In terms of health and in talking with the caregivers and that relationship with the providers, nurse practitioners, MDs, DOs, how critical is it to keep communication open, Nora? And I say that because, you know, and I know sometimes, obviously, you're trained in medical matters when a majority of the world is not. And perhaps when they get in front of the nurse or the physician or the physician assistant or nurse practitioner, they're like, well, I want to ask that question on behalf of them. I want to know, but I don't want to ask a silly question. What would you say to that as someone who's seen so many different health concerns?
Absolutely. So I'm going to first start by, there is no silly questions. If you don't know the answer, you need to ask. As a healthcare professional, I try really hard to make sure that I speak in terms that everybody would understand. Unfortunately, because healthcare is so common to me, sometimes I do slip up and use terms that may not be known to people who are not in the healthcare field. I had my mother was on hospice last year. We had to be her advocate. And as an advocate for a family member, you have to ask those questions. And if you don't understand, you need to keep asking and write things down. When a physician or a nurse practitioner comes into the patient's room or they call you, a lot of times you're not going to remember everything you wanted to ask. So as you have questions come in your head, please write them down. The physicians will answer as many questions as they possibly can. They don't always have all the answers either. And sometimes we kind of have to work through those things together. But as one part of the multidisciplinary team in the hospital, we as case managers can really help bridge that gap between the physician and the families. So I just urge you, write the questions down and ask.
Yeah, so important. Angela, I want to turn my sights to you as we begin to wrap up this important conversation about caregivers and resources available. You know, you heard Nora, she talked about, you know, certainly asking those questions, filling the gap, talking about those bridges. As an advocate for your son, who's an adult now, how key is it for advocates, or shall I say caregivers, to know that just because you are in contact with one provider, that doesn't always mean you have to stay there. And I think so many times people assume, you know, it's a one-stop deal, this is it. Talk about the importance of that rapport and relationship. And if you don't think it's best serving to your loved one, it's okay to look elsewhere.
That has been the story of my life. So I am so glad you kind of put that question out there. Because again, we're filling a void for new, old, and just people who may wake up one morning and be thrust into this caregiver space. My son, I've been his advocate since he was 4 years old. I'm also a special need advocate for autism, because he is a little artistic as well. And kindergarten through, let's say elementary, he had one team. Middle school, we moved and we changed. And then high school, we did it again. The reason why is because I felt like after so many years, they were getting comfortable. We kind of just wasn't fitting. He was outgrowing some things. And I didn't see the quality of the service, not in all cases, that I felt like we were getting in the beginning when we first started. So sometimes we had to change agencies. Sometimes we had to change therapists or psychiatrists or doctors or nurses. So it just really depends. But I made the conscious decision as his advocate that I was going to do what was in the best interest for him. So when I decided that we were not family, my loyalty was not to make sure somebody get a check, whatever the case may be. My loyalty was to make sure that the person I was advocating for was getting what they needed. So that is how I was able to say, you know what? I like this company, but sometimes I don't always feel like the people that come out are doing what I need to do. We're not in that place anymore. Let's try something new. He went from having a male caseworker to a female caseworker to back to a male. The changes, the seasons, the times, things change. Even with my mom, it was the same thing all the way down to when I put her in hospice. So I had a different team by the time we decided to make the decision to go to hospice, not the same people I was working with in the beginning. So you have to figure out how to do what's best for the person you're caring for. And it also makes it easier for you. Because if you're walking out of emotions, or you're trying to just stay in there because they were the first people that came in your space when you became a caregiver, then sometimes that's not always the best answer. So, again, that's why it's important to find the right support groups. You ask questions. Who are you using? Where do you go? Well, what did your family do when things change? From bedridden to, or from wheelchair to bedridden. So it's a difference. So make sure you ask questions like Shana said, and just kind of put it out there. And that is kind of where, yeah. I'm sorry, that got sidetracked, but yeah, that's something that you just definitely have to do, and it's very important.
Thank you so much for sharing insight, your own personal experiences as well. Such a
Yeah.
great conversation. I know it's certainly resonating with someone watching us. Eugene, as we wrap up, is there any lasting points you would like to share with our national viewing audience about caregiving? And Angela said it best, you don't really know when you might find yourself in that situation, right? We know life isn't something you can always plan. And at one point, either if it's us caring for a loved one or someone else caring for us. Any lasting points to keep in mind so we can be as empowered as possible in this journey of life?
Well, for starters, I definitely want to reiterate that caregiving is incredibly hard. At SeniorLink, we see family caregivers as heroes. Really, it's the day-to-day struggle. We understand that. And we feel family caregivers certainly need acknowledgement, but most of all, they need support. Also, it's important for family caregivers to seek and find the appropriate option for themselves. Of course, we know many people may only need in-home assistance for just a few hours a day. In that case, it's possible a personal care aide may be a good option. But if you find yourself providing care for hours after your personal care aide leaves, then SeniorLink structured family caregiving might be the right solution for you. The idea here is that if you're providing the care anyway, then you might as well get the additional support through our program to help you. Structured family caregiving comes into play when family members need care for at least 5 hours per day, every day, in their homes. For example, as I mentioned earlier, caregivers in the SeniorLink program also get access to Vela, which is our HIPAA secure app where they stay connected to their coach through text messaging. This app also has a calendar feature and good document storage to help with care coordination. Family caregivers in our program range from, let's say, the daughter caring for her father who has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's to a son helping his mom manage her diabetes. And to qualify for structured family caregiving with SeniorLink, caregivers must live with the individual they're caring for and complete 5 hours of caregiving each day, which could include help with bathing, personal hygiene care, using the restroom, dressing, transferring, eating, and even walking.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And is there a website or contact information you'd like to share with our audience right now?
Absolutely. I would encourage family caregivers or anyone interested in structured family caregiving with SeniorLink to check out our website at seniorlinkga.com. That's all one word, seniorlinkga.com, where they can learn so much more about how to build their confidence as caregivers. And of course, anyone listening is free to contact me directly. My email is ebell@seniorlink.com, ebell@seniorlink.com, or you can call at 267-304-3983, 267-304-3983. And I just want to say, I really appreciate this opportunity today to share information about SeniorLink Structured Family Caregiving Program. And I appreciate your time listening. And Shana, once again, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much for sharing. I'd like to turn my sights to you last round. Nora, any lasting points you would like to share as someone who has such an array of experience, right? You've seen all sides of it, such an advocate for those. But what should people be keeping in mind as we continue to navigate through COVID? Here is the second wave. I don't need to tell you all that virtually every state has high numbers. And certainly if you're in Georgia, those numbers are extremely high as well. What should caregivers keep in mind as they care and love and try to provide the best resources and options for their loved ones? But also, you know this, we're all human, with the concern of COVID or other illnesses on them as well.
Yeah, so like you said, COVID is very much real right now. I'm a huge advocate for wearing a mask and getting vaccinated. The statistics are out there. The patients that we're seeing are almost all unvaccinated, and the ones that are vaccinated are much, much less sick. But as far as caregiving, I want to kind of leave with just three little things. There should be a council of aging in your area. So that's a great place to start. They have wonderful resources, and that's going to be your community resources. So each area should have a council on aging. And then I talked about communication. And so again, communication is so important. I wanted to say it again. You can always, as a caregiver and an advocate, ask for a multidisciplinary meeting. And so your physicians, your case managers, the nurses, therapy, everybody can be involved and talk about what's going on. And so that is always something that you can ask for when your family member is in the hospital. And with COVID right now, unfortunately, we're not allowing visitation with those patients. So you have the ability to do virtual visits. We have iPads set up. We're learning so much with our technology right now. It's just wonderful. So use those resources. And then the last piece, I'm just going to put a plug in for a second. We see so many people who fall kind of middle of the road. They don't have a ton of money, and they're not on the other end where they can get more resources. We get, the blue collar, we've been working hard our whole life, and we don't have the money to pay for the sitter services, or there's a lot of resources out there, but sometimes they can be very costly. So as a proactive tip, look into long-term care insurance. And I throw that out there because long-term care insurance can pay for those sitter services, and it can be very helpful. And also, don't forget on your veterans. The VA is able to provide some of those services as well. So reach out to your local area for aging council and ask your case managers. We always say that if they don't know what to do with it at the hospital, they call case management. So we're glad to help, and we don't always have all the answers, but we will dig as hard as we can to get you what you need.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the case managers out there making a difference in so many hospitals and centers as well. I know several and just amazing individuals, as all three of you are. Nora, before I close out, did you have a website? I know you said the Council of Aging. Any other names that you would like to share, or any website domains that would be helpful for those listening and watching us right now?
Well, of course, you can always go to Medicare.gov. Okay. That will give you all the information you need that would be covered by your Medicare. If your family member is older, just be real careful with phone calls that they get. Sometimes insurances can change, and they don't always give them all the resources that they need. So I would just make sure that you're staying with them. Power of attorney, power of attorney, power of attorney. I can't say that enough. But Medicare.gov is a great website. You can put in your state, you can put in whatever physicians you're looking for, and it'll populate all of that information for you. And of course, with being Piedmont, we have a website as well, www.piedmont.org.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much for all of your information, your passion, and sharing some great education tonight with our audience. Angela, I will close with you. Did you have contact information or website for those interested in continuing the conversation about advocacy? You're muted. You're muted.
I was holding the whole conversation over here by myself. Those were some great contacts. I promise you, I was writing them down as I heard her say them. I do know AARP is definitely one. If you have some seniors, they give great information where you can go. I talked about being in some support groups on Facebook for places that I felt very safe. And one was the Facilitator on Fire. She gives great, it's a great group. She does webinars every week. I just felt so comfortable, as well as the Caregivers Living Abundantly. I love that group. I go in, I drop nuggets, I learn things, we get stuff, we support, and we feel like a family. And I just jumped in there, and my website also is www.coachamazing.com without the G. And I literally also put any type of resources that I get. So I'll be going and redoing some of this. And last but not least, Senior Link. I'm plugging them now. So I'm going to be out there saying, listen, I'm going to do my research, get in touch with Eugene, but I think like this is amazing. So I'm so glad I got to get this, and it's so much more, but I just wanted to stop there because giving my website, my IG information, I'm always putting inspiration for caregivers. And my Instagram is I am Coach Amazing. So I just want to say you are not alone, and we're here, and we're all working together to make this country just even better with everything that's going on. So
Wow.
back to you, Shana.
One team, one village, one community. What an amazing conversation tonight, talking about caregivers and the resources available. It's an exceptional conversation we've not had before here on Let's Talk America Radio, but we continue to seek the best and the brightest. I want to, again, thank you so much. Angela Tate, thank you. Eugene Bell, thank you. Nora Gibson, thank you. Three advocates with a passion for caregiving. May you all continue the great work. Well, if you are tuned in to Let's Talk America Radio, then you certainly know that we continue to highlight the best and the brightest that are out there. I said that before, and we continue to do that. I don't want to dismiss that on any level because we cover so many different topics and issues. We bring in a diverse of people that share their passions, their goals, and their expertise. We're all connected, as I said before, and the more we know, the more empowered we can all be dealing with any life situation, be it education, be it government matters, be it matters of our health, whatever it is, we're in it together. Let's Talk America Radio continues to deliver content that you want to know more about. We acknowledge that you're busy, but busy people have to be informed as well. We deliver objective news talk to keep you informed. We happen to believe that you are wise enough and smart enough to make your own decisions, but certainly we want to bring in so many different advocates and experts to give you the information you need to make those decisions. Stay with Let's Talk America Radio. For additional information, visit ltaradio.com. That's ltaradio.com. Hashtag LTA Radio out there on social media. Our, of course, handle is LTA Radio Connect. We love to hear feedback from you. Please check us out. If you go to our website, you have the opportunity to leave feedback on this show program, or if you want to connect with any of our exclusive guests tonight and didn't catch their information, let us know and we will connect you. Thanks for watching us, America. Stay informed, okay? And stay empowered. Take care and stay safe.